What's up, everybody? I'm Chris, and this is episode 15 of Patriot Party News, Texas Secession. Great idea or big mistake? Now, there's a political cycle here in Texas where every time we get a Democrat in office, we talk about secession. But I thought, let's actually break into it this time and actually talk about some of the fundamental ideas behind it. Stick around. All right, so the Texas state legislature has started the process for secession. Well, that might be a little bit of an overreach. A bill has been introduced. Let's talk about it. Newsmax is reporting, a Texas state representative plans to file legislation he hopes leads to secession from the United States. Rep. Kyle Biederman from Fredericksburg said he will take action to secure a referendum on giving Texans the right to choose between remaining a state or becoming an independent nation. Biederman wrote in a statement posted on Facebook this week, "The federal government is out of control and does not represent the values of Texans. That is why I am committing to file legislation this session that will allow a referendum to give Texans a vote for the state of Texas to reassert its status as an independent nation." Biederman said his bill will focus on Article 1, Section 2 of the Texas Constitution, which reads, "All political power is inherent in the people, and all free governments are founded on their authority and instituted for their benefit. The faith of the people of Texas stands pledged to preservation of a republican form of government, and subject to this limitation, only they have at all times the inalienable rights to alter, reform, or abolish their government in such manner as they may think expedient. #Texit. So I think the argument is valid. For sure, the federal government has really overreached, and it does seem like we are losing our republican form of government, and it seems like they're trying to send us in a straight democracy kind of direction. But does that mean that secession is a great idea? So last Friday, Biederman actually did file his bill. So let's see. KSAT is reporting, after weeks of touting his secession bill on social media, State Rep. Kyle Biederman from Fredericksburg formally filed the proposed legislation on Friday, which would give Texans a chance to explore opting out of the Union in a referendum. Biederman began talking about the potential Texit in early December, saying it's his response to a federal government that is out of control and does not represent the value of Texans. In a news release published after he filed the bill, Biederman said HB 1359 would not allow for immediate independence, but create a referendum that, if approved, would lead to the creation of a committee that would develop a plan for secession. For decades, the promises of America and our individual liberties have been eroding, Biederman said in a statement. It is now time that the people of Texas are allowed the right to decide their own future. This is not a left or right political issue. Let Texans vote. I mean, Biederman's right. Our liberties are being eroded. You can't even deny it. But I'm not sure if secession is the right move. I don't know if abandoning the nation that needs our help is the right call. So there's this myth here. I don't know if it's a myth. I don't know if that's fair, but there's this idea that Texas is the only state in the Union that could legally secede from the nation. But I really wanted to look into it and see if it is legal or not. And I found that the answer is, meh. Let's see. The legality of seceding is problematic. Eric McDaniel, who's an associate professor of government at the University of Texas at Austin, told the Texas Tribune in 2016, "The Civil War played a very big role in establishing the power of the federal government and cementing that the federal government has the final say on these issues. Many historians believe when the Confederacy surrendered at Appomattox in 1865, the idea of secession was also defeated. McDaniel said the Union victory set a precedent that states could not legally secede." See, Texas had already seceded from the nation at that point to fight in the Civil War. And after the Civil War was lost and the South had to come to a peace agreement and those states were absorbed back into the Union, the argument is that that move right there sealed the deal and that you're not allowed to secede anymore. Now, this has never been argued in court. It's never gone before a jury or anything like that, or a panel of judges. So we don't know for sure how that would play out. And it might be interesting. So what are my thoughts on secession? I will admit that when Barack Obama was the president and I was a younger man, I did think a lot about how it would be cool if Texas seceded from the nation. But I don't feel that way anymore. I love our country. This channel is called Patriot Party News because I love America. Because I love her and I fought for her and I was in the Navy, I don't want to see it split up. So the idea of seceding from the nation, it doesn't make me very happy. I am fully aware that things are really bad right now. And everything really seems like it's getting worse, not better. The news every day comes out, it makes me more upset. But if Texas leaves, we can't help fix what's broken. The government is corrupt, and we need the states to fight to fix it. And let's be honest about something. The CCP would love for Texas to secede from the Union. You see, anything that makes the United States weaker is good for China. And me, I don't want to do anything that benefits the CCP. Any country that puts its own people in internment camps and has human rights violation, and also, the China virus, really makes me angry. So the idea of helping them, no thanks. So in the eyes of the rest of the world, the United States is the last bastion of freedom. When other countries want freedom or their people are willing to fight for it, they hold up the American flag. They sing the American national anthem. It's time for us to live up to those people's expectation and to fix this country and to make it worthy of the title, the shining city on the hill. Okay? We cannot do that if we are not a part of the United States of America. Anyway, it's highly doubtful that this bill will even pass. It probably won't get anywhere, but it is symptomatic of a larger problem that every time this political cycle changes, we end up talking about this again. When Trump was the president, we started talking about Cal exit and how California was going to leave the union. Maybe it's time to address the elephant in the room, and that's that the federal government is too big. It was never meant to be this giant, all-powerful organization that had so much control over the states. If the federal government was limited in power, then perhaps people wouldn't feel the need to flee the nation so often. I'm just saying. So what can we even do about it? What can we do to help fix our nation? Well, let's point out the fact that Texas is the third largest taxpayer in the nation. Texas pays something like $292 billion to the federal tax system. If the federal government is not going to live up to their expectations, maybe it's time for Texas to follow suit. Maybe it's time for us to retain some of that, or not, if not all of that money, because we can do a whole lot with $292 billion. I think Texas should take the bold step of declaring themselves an unborn baby sanctuary state. I think Texas needs to decree by law that life starts at conception and that any abortion is murder. And since the Supreme Court has already decided that they don't want to rule on states' issues, they should have nothing to say about it. In addition, Texas should also declare themselves a 2A sanctuary state. No longer will Texas allow the federal government to enforce federal gun laws inside the state of Texas. And the state of Texas should do a referendum and see how people feel about the current current state gun laws. Maybe it's time to overhaul and revamp those too. And Texas should cut all spending on programs that are funded by the federal government. It is time to rid ourselves of this federal government funding because they use it as a weapon against us. They use it as a weapon against any state that doesn't want to comply. It's going to become very important when we start talking about H.R. 1, which I don't even want to get into right now, but it's a nightmare. But if we can cut ourselves from that federal funding, then they won't have anything to hold over our heads. Are they going to send the army in? Hell no. So if we can do that, we'll be in a stronger place. But you know what? Since we only get like $3.5 billion in federal funding, maybe we could just take that out of the money that we're not going to pay in taxes. So one final crazy idea, and a lot of people might not know about this, but the state of Texas actually has the right to split up into 5 states. So let's read a little bit about that. We're the only state that can divide ourselves without anybody's permission, says Donald W. Weisenhunt, a Texas native and author of the 1987 book, The 5 States of Texas, an immodest proposal. That's just the way it is. So, Article 4, Section 3 of the U.S. Constitution states that Congress must approve any new states, but Texas' claim to an exception comes straight from the 1845 Joint Congressional Resolution admitting Texas into the Union. It reads, "New states of convenient size, not exceeding 4 in number, in addition to the state of Texas, and having sufficient population, may hereafter, by consent of said state, be formed out of the territory thereof, which shall be entitled to admission under the provisions of the federal Constitution." Supporters of Texas division say this means that Congress pre-approved a breakup. So why would that be beneficial? Right now, Texas, even though we're gigantic, only has 2 senators. If we were 5 states, we would have 10 senators. 10 senators would shift the balance. That's exactly what they're trying to do right now with D.C. and Puerto Rico. So if we did that as a state, we would completely undermine their efforts to add D.C. and Puerto Rico to statehood. Now, here's the problem. Dallas and Austin are both in Texas, and they are both liberal strongholds. So we got to find a way to split them off that either negates that or puts them together so that they can have 2 Senate seats and they can ruin stuff on their own side. It's crazy, I know, but maybe it's something we need to look into. All right, everybody. Thanks a lot for watching. Do me a favor, hit that like button. If you want to find our social media, just go to thepatriotparty.news. We've got links on there. You can look through our store. I've got one shirt up. It's pretty cool. We'll see you next time, and thank you very much.